Hey folks, today I'll cover a very interesting old game that somehow turned out to be less terrible than expected. A game whose goal was to pay homage to the B-movie monster flicks from the 1950s, and it's dedicated in particular to Raymond Frederick Harryhausen and Forrest J. Ackerman. I'm talking about...
You play I Was an Atomic Mutant!
What? Never heard of it? If you were wondering how on earth I discovered this game, well, I simply tried out the demo included with the first video game magazine ever bought, back in 2002. Or rather, I tried to play it, since it ran like shit on my ancient PC of the time. Good times. In any case, thanks to its somewhat bizarre title and premise, it stuck in my memory all this time, and I finally decided to play it once and for all. You see, there are people who ponder profound questions like the meaning of life, and then there's me, thinking while cultivating, I wonder what that old game is like, the one I caught a glimpse of for 2 seconds a lifetime ago, which is basically how I end up reviewing these obscure games. The first thing that catches your eye is when you start the setup, and this sort of old movie poster appears, complete with slogans and credits. Look, it's pretty neat.
Starring a giant atomic lizard, a brain of infinite power, an alien robot with a nasty death ray, and a very large mutant woman. Okay, cool. At first glimpse, these devs really knew their stuff, packing the game with fantastic details and homages, and the cutscenes add a unique touch. See, essentially they gained access to footage from old movies, which they re-edited and redubbed to suit their needs. And the intro is a perfect example of this.
Know that all matter is made of atoms. To harness their power is to unleash the fury of the universe primeval. But what unspeakable things may come of meddling with forces from the dawn of creation.
Look at the size of that!
Beware, for mutations great and terrible are awakening from their atomic slumber. Can mankind combat a power from beyond space?
Then there's the main menu, which shows an old movie theater screening the game itself. Neat. And the signs featuring slogans serve as the game menus. When we start a new game, we first need to create a profile, and then choose one of the 4 starring atomic monsters, the game mode, and some other things. Let's pick Reptomucus first. In my opinion, it's the most fun to play with. A classy touch is that each of the 4 playable monsters has its own trailer, featuring the usual stock footage of old movies, mixed with gameplay sections that showcase the titular creature.
So what if their atomic experiment fails?
Then expect something that's fiercer, more cruel and deadly than anything that ever walked the earth.
Ah! Reptomucus, a horrifying monster born in the belly of the atomic age.
What is a living atomic reactor, creating intense energy.
The voice acting is so ridiculous on purpose.
No weapon of man can match the ferocity of Reptomucus!
Okay, that was fun. Now, let's choose between the classic theater and the drive-in. You'll see why later. And then pick up one of the 2 game mods. For now, let's go with the arcade mode, which offers 3 difficulty levels and a set number of lives. Let the chaos begin. This game is actually fairly simple. The goal of each level is to destroy every building on the map, ignoring things like signs and cactuses, until the distractometer is completely full. To succeed, we'll have to use the creature's various powers, which function like weapons. Reptomucus can shoot fireballs, perform a tail walk or a powerful bite, and even breath fire. In arcade mode, aside from health, we'll have to manage the energy consumed by these powers, which regenerates slowly on its own, unless we pick up various bonuses which can also restore health, while others provide boosts like double destructive power or invulnerability for a limited time. We can also collect extra lives. They're pretty rare, and when you run out of them, it's game over with no chance to restart using that profile. It simply has to be deleted. Reptomucus, like the other creatures, can pick up and throw cars, signs, and even people. This ability costs nothing to use, and furthermore, Reptomucus is the only one who can eat people or cows to regain a bit of health. Devouring the puny humans can be a lifesaver, but it comes at a price. Enemies can still attack us and render the effort futile, unless we time our actions correctly. Alright, the enemies. As the levels progress, the variety of military forces will increase. Initially we'll face simple soldiers in green uniforms, but later we'll encounter aircrafts, artillery emplacements, and armored vehicles, all divided into different tiers, like the massive fighter jets that drop powerful bombs, tanks that shoot very damaging missiles, and hazmat troopers which spread very lethal gases. See, the game doesn't really do anything wrong, or particularly bad. It's all pretty simple and potentially fun. We can even switch to a camera mode called Canopy 3D that shows the previously selected cinema or drive-in, with the audience watching us as if it were all a movie. The real problem is that the game shows everything it got just after an hour or so. The levels start to feel soon repetitive, and even seem randomly generated after a certain point. Or at least they use layouts that are then recycled endlessly, except for a certain number of initial ones that seemed all handcrafted. I've discovered through the YouTube channel of the artist Rocco Basile, who worked on the game, that the campaign actually never ends, unless we run out of lives, but on normal difficulty that's pretty unlikely to happen. Personally, I got bored before reaching level 50. Is that all then? Not really. The other three creatures have also their movie trailers, with the usual bad voice acting and cheese dialogue, and even some special abilities. But let's go in order. Let's play as the Invader from Dimension X.
From a smoldering crater emerges a creature from another time and place. A terrifying horror.
Are you saying that we've ripped a hole in our dimension and let this thing in? Well, who's going to fix this?
What will stop this monster? This invader from Dimension X!
Okay, the actual gameplay is not different from Reptomucus, since we always have 5 different powers that consume energy except the throw ability. But still, this giant mech driven by an alien is freaking powerful. Its death ray is so destructive that it makes it the best choice for the other game mode. The Monster mode. Here we have only one life, but infinite energy. Thanks to that, we can fucking destroy everything from afar. It's pure cheating. Now it's time for the Brain Beyond Infinity.
Then an accidental atomic blast rips his body from him, leaving only his fantastic brain. A brain of immense psychic energy. A brain from beyond infinity! Once a brilliant scientist, now a creature whose mere thought can drive people mad, and whose psychic energy can destroy everything in his path. A brain from beyond infinity!
Ha
Here I don't really have much to say. The giant brain is very similar to the others, yes, with the exception of just one unique ability called Insanity Ray, which will transform all the present enemies in inoffensive toys. See, once an enemy has been rendered harmless, all we have to do is pulverize it with extreme prejudice. And now let's talk about the last one, the she-beast featured on the cover.
An experiment that causes enormous growth, creating a gigantic beast, a she-beast!
We're going to take the beast back and study her.
And bring her back they do, but they cannot hold this monstrosity of the atomic age. The wrath of the she-beast!
The she-beast is actually the one I liked the least. Her destructive power seems to be the weakest of the lot, though her Sonic Scream ability allows her to immobilize enemies for a few seconds and even bring down aircraft. But aside from that, there's not much to say, other than the fact that her background music is very interesting. And now, I don't think there's much else to say about this game. IWAAM Atomic Mutant was a very interesting product with a neat concept, but unfortunately it runs out of ideas pretty quickly, and once you complete the first time 30 levels, there's not much incentive to replay the whole thing with a second creature, other than to see the minor gameplay differences. Aside from these limitations, the game boasts really cool music, though it does become repetitive over time, given that there's only one theme per monster that plays in every level. The sound effects are well crafted too, and, well, you've already heard the hilarious voice acting, but I'm pretty sure that's an artistic choice. Graphically, the game runs on a proprietary engine, and the creatures' animations are, yes, pretty good, especially the big brain and its, squishy appearance. I find it pretty unsettling. The levels featuring cities, factories, military bases and so on are not very large, though there's still a good sense of scale. The models of buildings are quite well made and varied, as well as the enemy vehicles, and I must also add that the visual effects of explosions and general destruction are also well rendered. Overall, it's not the best looking game of 2003, but we can say that it does its job. And before I forget, we can also enable a black and white effect to better evoke the atmosphere of the old monster movies that inspired the game. One thing that annoyed me is that our giant creature cannot step over low walls. Look. Yet, enemy planes fly right through mountains. You know what surprised me? The game never crashed, even though getting it running on modern systems is a bit tricky. But I will not steal your time with video tutorials, and just list all the necessary steps in the description below. IWAAM Atomic Mutant was, yes, an interesting experience, although limited in scope due to time and budget restrictions, but still fun for the hour or so it takes to see everything, and I wonder how better it could have been if they had all the necessary time and money. That said, if you enjoyed discovering once again an interesting and little known old game, please let me know in the comments. As always, a warm thanks to all viewers, and see you in the next entry.